Most people who start looking at Airbnbs in Canmore are doing the right things. They're running numbers, they're scrolling listings, they're watching videos just like this. What they're usually not doing though is asking whether this actually fits their life and not just their spreadsheet. Because I have seen a lot of very smart, very capable people buy great properties and then realize a year later that they don't actually enjoy owning them. And not because the investment itself was bad, but because it was the wrong fit. And that's what this video is all about. If you hire a good property management company, this can be a very turnkey investment. You're not answering guest messages, you're not coordinating cleaners, you're not dealing with check-ins and checkouts, and that's the reality for a lot of the successful owners in this space. But even then, you're still connected to it. You're reviewing statements, you're watching its performance over time, you're thinking about the long-term value and appreciation. And personal use is something people tend to overestimate. I think a lot of buyers, they think, well, the zoning allows us to come and go whenever we want. This is going to be fantastic. We can make money, we can use it ourselves. But in practice, the peak season in the summer is when it rents best. So you're often choosing between personal use and income. Some people are fine with that. Others slowly get frustrated by it. Neither is wrong, but it matters. Where lifestyle really becomes an issue is for people who want to self-manage. And I'm not saying that it's bad. Some people do it very, very well, but it's a very different experience. Self-managing is basically starting a small hospitality business with no reviews, no superhost status, no built-in credibility of any kind in one of the most competitive short-term rental markets in the country. If you self-manage this property, it will always be in your head. You'll have you have everything from pricing to the calendar to the cleaners, maintenance, guest questions. It's constant small decisions, and small decisions add up quick. The only client I've ever seen really pull it off long-term lived in Canmore, had family helping do the cleaning, and even then, after a few years, it took a toll. And eventually, they sold it. I've also had people come to me and say, well, you know what, my spouse can manage it. They're retired or they're just, they're stay-at-home parents. It'll be awesome. They can do it all. And after we actually walk through what that means, they realize it's much more involved than they thought. The appeal here is control, right? It feels like building your own business, which is awesome. I get that. But you have to ask yourself, is that really what you want? Next is risk tolerance. And this isn't just about money, it's about how you react to uncertainty. There'll be slower months, even in a AAA market like Canmore. There'll be seasons that surprise you. There'll be years that are better than other years. And that's totally normal in the tourism industry. The successful owners tend to be calm, they zoom out, they think in years and not just in weeks or days. The ones who struggle are usually the ones who panic when things slow down and start to question everything. There's also an emotional side to this that nobody really prepares you for. So I'm going to do that for you right now. You'll notice other listings, right? You'll hear stories. My friend's place is always booked. Someone in my building made X amount of dollars. And if you're not careful, you'll start comparing constantly. And that leads to reactive decisions, dropping prices too fast, overspending on upgrades that don't matter at all, second guessing your property managers, etc. The owners who do best put the blinders on. They focus on the plan and not what Johnny down the hall is doing. So who does this actually work well for? Well, typically people who trust good management, who don't micromanage, who think long-term and stay patient, who are willing to wait for the right property. They watch the market. They know exactly what they want, especially when it comes to location. And when the right property comes up, they're ready. They're bold. And they are often unconditional because it fits every box they've already thought through. Some of my best clients took a year, sometimes two, to get there. But when they did, they jumped in and they nailed it. On the other hand, this can be tough for people who buy emotionally. The types of people who chase the pretty looking units, who stretch themselves financially or just simply jump in to be in the market. It's also hard when partners aren't aligned. A lot of times I can see it right before closing. One person's excited, the other one is nervous, and that usually means there's more to talk about. So this really is a send to your spouse video, so make sure if you're not watching it together that you do that. But before you move forward and have a real conversation about how involved you want to be, whether you'll use management, how much variability you're okay with, and what success actually looks like for you. Most mistakes I see aren't about picking the wrong building, they're about picking the wrong strategy for the people who are involved. If this video helped you clarify whether this actually fits your life, then it's done its job and I'm happy. And if you're still interested after watching this, that's usually a really good sign. In the next video, I'm going to walk through something that I get asked about constantly. Condos versus townhomes versus detached homes, and what actually works for Airbnb in Canmore. We'll look at why condos tend to dominate the market. We're going to look at the real cost versus flexibility trade-offs and all of the things attached. It's very practical and very actionable. If this series has been helpful, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you're at the point where you want to talk through your specific situation, feel free to reach out. That's what these videos are here to do.